Happy Thanksgiving week to all of you who are listening to this when it drops, and if you live in the United States and celebrate Thanksgiving. I will tell you one thing I am thankful for, and it is that I do not think that AI is coming for my job anytime soon. And maybe I'll be eating my words in a year from now, but at this point in time, I still stand by my stance that I've been saying all year long, which is that AI sucks at science. It really does. It is not good at understanding science. I would love for it to make answer keys for me. There's so many things I'd love for it to do to make my life easier, but it just can't get that job done. So I'm thankful for job security at this point in AI's evolution, but who knows how much better it will get over time. But here's what I will say that it is good for now. It's an extension of kind of what I shared back in episode 173. So if you have not listened to that episode, you should definitely do that first. But basically, I did that episode on, I think it was 8 ways that I have been using AI and just messing around with it. And I promised when I did that episode 8 months ago that I would continue to share with you what I'm learning as I try to use AI to make my life easier and simplify my life. And so that's what today is all about. It's going to be a few more ways that I found AI can support you in the classroom, specifically support you if you're using It's Not Rocket Science curriculum or another curricula that you've been given. So you already have all the resources, you've been giving things, but now from here, how can AI help me? Because I don't need it for lesson planning. I don't need it for, coming up with practice handouts and writing tests, which don't use it for writing tests. I'm telling you, it's not good at it. But you're like, how could I use it from here? I have a couple of ways that I found it being helpful for me, and I hope it'll be helpful for you too. So let's dive in. This is Secondary Science Simplified, a podcast for secondary science teachers who want to engage their students and simplify their lives. I'm Rebecca Joyner from It's Not Rocket Science. As a high school science teacher turned curriculum writer, I am passionate about helping other science teachers love their jobs, serve their students, and do it all in only 40 hours a week. Are you ready to rock the time you spend in your classroom and actually have a life outside of it? You are in the right place, teacher friend. Let's get to today's episode. Like I said, I've already done an episode about ways that AI can make your life easier, and I actually just double-checked. I shared 9 ways that it can make your life easier as a secondary science teacher back in episode 173. So go check that out if you haven't already. But now here we are in episode 210, and I've got 4 more ideas. But again, these are really specific to your curriculum is already done. You have it. Now, how else can it help me with what I already have? And so I have 4 to share with you today that I've been playing around with throughout the rest of 2025. So first, I have found that AI is great at idea generation. So for example, if you need ideas for essential questions for a unit, if you use my It's Not Rocket Science units, I have one for each unit, but maybe you're at a school where they want you to have weekly essential questions or a daily essential question. It comes up with pretty good ones. You can go to it and say, hey, this is a unit I'm teaching. These are the topics I'm covering. Can you give me a list of essential questions I could use to guide or be an overarching question that we would look through, as we go through this unit? And it can give you some great ideas for that. Also, if you need more phenomena ideas for your standards, you can upload your standards, copy and paste. I find it does really well if you give it some good background information and say, hey, I teach in Pennsylvania. We've got the steels, and I'm trying to figure out some phenomena ideas for this specific steel, and you can copy and paste it. What do you got? Each of my It's Not Rocket Science units do come with an NGSS alignment guide, and they have lists of phenomenon ideas. I give you the everyday, the investigative, the anchoring, but you may want more, or you may have done these. You may have been teaching my anatomy curriculum the last 5 years, and you're like, I want some fresh ideas. You can say, hey, give me some more ideas to use. Or maybe you ask your students, what kind of things are you interested in? And then you ask ChatGPT, hey, these are the things they're interested in. These are the standards I have to cover. Give me some ideas for anchoring phenomena or everyday phenomena for this. Also, idea generation for additional labs or instructional resources. So let's say you use my curriculum and there are some specific state standards that my curriculum doesn't cover, or, whatever other curriculum you have, and there's some things that aren't covered. Put it in ChatGPT and see if they can make you just a one-off resource. Now, again, I shouldn't say they'll make you a resource because I think it's really bad at actually making resources, but it can come up with good ideas. Like you can say, I want to cover this topic. What would be some fun hands-on things I can do? It'll give you some ideas and then it'll ask you. It'll say, do you want me to make a student handout for you? You can say yes. It's probably going to be terrible. At least my standards, it is not to my standards, but I think it can come up with good ideas. Or thinking about this week, it's Thanksgiving week. Maybe on Wednesday, you have a weird half day and you see all your classes for 30 minutes. And you're like, what am I going to do with my students for 30 minutes? Go to ChatGPT and say, hey, I've got 30 minutes with my high school chemistry students on Wednesday. Is there anything we could do that's valuable in 30 minutes before Thanksgiving break? Right now, we're learning about balancing chemical reactions and just see what it comes up with. You're probably going to have to make the actual student handout from there. Again, just based on my experience, I don't think it's very good at that, but it's great at idea generation. So that's one way you can be using AI as a supplement or a little teaching assistant, if you will, for curriculum you already have. My second suggestion for it is to use it for research activity or research project support. So I would make sure you're explicitly teaching students to not consider ChatGPT a go-to spot for research. If they do use it as a research tool, please, please, please tell them that if ChatGPT gives them information that they need to follow up with, can you cite your sources? Because sometimes it will not be able to, and sometimes it will, and you can see if they're legit sources or not. But I do not recommend students using it as to not use it as like google.com, okay? But I will say, I do think it's good at being given a prompt and then asking for what types of things you should research for that project. So for example, a lot of my It's Not Rocket Science projects, like in physical science, biology, whatever, at the top, there'll be like an overview or it'll say like task or something for the project. You can copy and paste that in a ChatGPT and then say, hey, here's the overview of the project. What are some things that I should research for this project? Give me some things so that you know what you should then go put into Google. Or say, hey, can you give me a list of sources and websites that might be helpful for me to use to research for this project? Or that's two things your students could do, but you as a teacher could say, hey, my students are about to do this project. For my students with accommodations, can you make them an outline that then they can use to fill in on their own to do this project? And it'll make you a worksheet. And I think those are good uses of it. I just don't like the way they format. I never think it's as detailed enough as it should be, but it can do a good outline, like a skeleton outline that then your students can use. And so that's a way that you can be supporting students on top of the resources you're already giving them. Now, my third suggestion is making multiple versions of assessments. Now, I've already told you, I think AI is terrible so far at writing very good quiz and test questions for science. However, it works best when you give it something to go off of. Like I said, the more you can input, the better the output can be. So if you can give it a model, all of my It's Not Rocket Science tests and quizzes come in a document form, like a Word doc or Google Doc. You can say, hey, here's this test. Can you make a different version of it for absent students and see what it can do from there for you when you've given it a model? Or you can just say, can you change the numbers on this quantitative test so that I have 5 versions instead of just the A/B that I provide with mine? Also, for students that need extra practice questions for tutoring, I'm really intentional about not overloading students with like 30 practice problems about the same thing. You've heard me probably say before, if they can do it 5 times, they can do it 20 times. So I try to keep my practice questions to 5 to 10 questions is usually my ideal, especially since I do not assign homework. But, sometimes students need more practice. And so that's a great thing for tutoring. Ask for the extra practice questions. Say, hey, here are the ones we did in class. Can you give me 10 more we can do in tutoring? Then it'll say, do you want me to put this in a Google Doc? And you can say, sure. Again, I don't mind if it's bad formatting or anything like that when it's just extra tutoring type stuff. So that wouldn't bother me at all. And I know I mentioned this in episode 173, but I just had to repeat it again because it's truly so helpful. And then the fourth thing I will say you can be using AI for is flipped classroom support. So if you want to do the flipped classroom model and you want to have students be accountable for watching lecture videos and taking notes at home so you have more time in class for all the hands-on instructional resources, you know that if you use It's Not Rocket Science resources, or if you don't, my YouTube channel is available to all. It's youtube.com/@itsnotrocketscienceclassroom, and all of them are there. You can give ChatGPT or, Magic School, if you're using that, the link to my YouTube lecture video and then say, hey, my students are taking notes on this. I also want them to have to answer a few questions about it as a way for me to check that they, did it and didn't just copy the notes, maybe from a friend. What would you ask them? Or that could be how it makes your bell ringer. Like, hey, they're going to be doing these notes for homework, and then they're going to have a bell ringer tomorrow. What should the bell ringer question be? I think that is a great way to utilize AI just to support you and take those kind of extra tasks off your plate. The reason that I started writing curriculum is to support teachers and simplify their teaching lives so that teaching doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. And I think AI can really help us in simplifying if we know productive ways to use it. So these are 4 new ways I've been kind of leaning into it recently, and I hope you find them helpful. I will continue to probably share maybe every 6 months, probably more like once a year, kind of what I'm learning and exploring. And as you guys discover more uses for it, particularly using it to assist you with resources you already have, I would love to hear from you. So reach out and DM me on Instagram and let me know how AI is making your teacher life easier. Also, I've done some interviews with some other teachers about AI, and they've been great too. And I'm going to link those in the show notes as well. Those are from 2024. So I'll link all my episodes about that. I also have episode 174, which is about how to teach your students to use AI productively. So we're making a little bank here of AI content, and I hope you find it helpful. You can find all of those episodes linked in the show notes at itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/episode 210. And I would love it if you would leave a review today if you haven't already. If you found me through the Secondary Science Simplified podcast first and then became an It's Not Rocket Science resource user after, it'd be fun to hear from you. So I'd love it if you would leave a review. All right, teacher friends, that wraps up today's episode. If you're looking for an easy way to start simplifying your life as a secondary science teacher, head to itsnotrocketscienceclassroom.com/challenge to grab your classroom reset challenge. And guess what? It's totally free. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you here next week. Until then, I'll be rooting for you, teacher friend.